y nos llenará de ideas y propuestas para rescatar el turismo, el cual ha sido pues severamente afectado. Gracias a las maestras de idiomas, Sandra, Claudia, a la maestra Miriam y a los alumnos de quinto semestre por hacer esto posible. Y pues bueno, siendo las 9:04 del día 4 de mayo del 2020, se declara inaugurado el ciclo de conferencias 2020A de la licenciatura en turismo. Bienvenidos todos.
Gracias.
A continuación les pido a todos poner en silencio su micrófono. Esto lo pueden hacer dando clic en el símbolo de micrófono. Si tienen preguntas, pueden irlas escribiendo en el chat general, que está en el símbolo de chat, o incluso pueden mandarlo directamente a mí buscándome como Adriana Rivas. Les pedimos activar sus cámaras para poder verlo dando clic en el símbolo de video. El grupo de quinto semestre se complace en presentar la primera conferencia con el tema La puerta a los idiomas, que habla cómo un segundo idioma puede sernos de gran ayuda. A continuación presentaremos un video con el currículum de nuestra expositora. Recibamos a la licenciada Cristina Dolores Hernández Landazuri.
Hola, muy buenos días. ¿Sí me escucha?
Sí.
Okay.
Sí.
Muy bien. Pues muchísimas gracias por haberme tomado en cuenta para compartirle un poco de mi experiencia en esta área. Pues yo, como vieron, he dado clases de inglés e incluso informática en áreas de hospitalidad y de alimentos y bebidas. Entonces, les preparé una pequeña presentación de PowerPoint que al final le haré llegar a Adriana para que se las pueda compartir a ustedes. ¿Ok? Ok. Pues mi nombre... ¿Sí se ve? Mi nombre es Cristina Hernández. The topic that we are going to talk about is the importance of knowing a second language in the touristic industry. Okay, so first of all, I am going to talk about my personal experience regarding how I acquired the language of knowing English. First of all, I am going to talk about the importance of the motivation when someone is learning a new language. You know that there are two different types of motivation, intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. In my case, my mother allowed us to have the opportunity to study in an institute, but my brothers and I had different types of motivation. In my case, it was intrinsic motivation because it was something that came within me because with the time I started to get curious about how to learn the language, because I started to realize the importance of getting to know a lot of people who were talking another language different than my own, it was nice to finally watch a movie and understand everything that was said. But in my brother's case, it was more like an outside motivation, because they were not really wanting to learn the language, but it was something imposed to them. That is the difference between how you can learn something in a better way. I have seen this in my students. Those who have the intrinsic motivation are more willing to learn faster than those who are only expecting me to give them badges or giving them extra points. Okay. At the end, when you have the motivation, you have to start thinking about the goals that you want to achieve, getting the correct attitude to study, and try to make a good performance to finally get successful in knowing the language. But at the end, it doesn't matter if it's about knowing a language or learning everything new. It will always take time, effort, dedication, and hard work, okay? At the end, learning language can be difficult to overcome, but it's not impossible. The point is to open the different traditions and habits and to invest additional effort to master whatever you want to learn, okay? Now, I want to talk about what I have seen are the difficulties of learning a different language besides the mother tongue. And I am not only talking about things like grammar or vocabulary or how to make a correct sentence. I am talking about some other things. For example, it could be a difficult or a problem or even a challenge to dominate the fear. How many of you have stayed in the position of not wanting to express yourself in English because you are afraid of what other people tell you? Okay, so what do you have to do to overcome this fear? You could practice often, practice hard, and learn to laugh at yourself in the process. It doesn't matter if you say a word that it's incorrect or if you say it in a way that you should not have said it. The point is that you learn from your mistakes. And if you speak it, then you could be heard for other people who actually domains the language and they could help you, okay? The second, the lack of opportunities. And what do I mean with this? There might be a lot of problems like not being able to pay for some classes, nor having someone to talk to and practice. But the truth is that you make your own opportunities in life. You are going to be more concerned with the things that you don't have, or are you going to be like make the good use out of the things that you have? Consider this image. You have to stop thinking about what you won't do because you don't have maybe the money or you don't have the time or you don't have the people to talk to and practice, and stop thinking that you cannot do it. You have to start thinking of what you want and what are you going to do to make it happen until you achieve it, okay? The next idea of the challenges that I have seen in my students, or I have even done myself at the beginning, refuse to accept fundamental differences. How many of you have been in the situation that you want to express yourself in English, but you start thinking in your own language first, and then you try to make whatever you want to share? The first thing is that you don't have to translate everything, okay? You have to be aware of the differences, like the word order. In English, they use the adjectives before the noun, but in Spanish, we use the noun first, and then we use the adjectives. Or for example, between English and French, we say la table or la mesa. It's something as a feminine gender, okay? But in English, it's just the table. Those are the kind of differences that we have to think about and stop trying to match the other languages with our own, because what's make us not learn as fast as we should. The next, lack of time. How many of us have ever used that kind of difficulty? It's like, we don't have time to do this, we have a lot of things to do. Maybe you're a parent, or you have two jobs, but the reality is that a day has 24 hours, and the thing that we have to do is organize our priorities, and then the perspective of the time will change. We could make a schedule. We can embrace language learning as a daily routine, assign specific moments to practice and learn. Even though we do it little by little, if you are persistent, at the end it will be worth it. You can start with learn different, like 3 words every day. It might seem a little, but at the end of the month, that would be a good amount of words that you have learned. And that's what you have to do. Instead of thinking of the lack of the time that you have, make it like a schedule, okay? And the last thing about the difficulties or the challenges that you might have, the inner voice. And I mean about try not to have those negative thoughts all the time. It's not about that you cannot do something, but instead of thinking of the things that you cannot do, start thinking that you can do them. You can do whatever you get your mind into. And it's like the Henry Ford saying, if you think you can do a thing, or if you think you can't do a thing, then you're right. Whatever you think, it's what will happen to you. Okay? Next, I will want to share with you some advices of things that you have to do to improve how you learn the language, because in your career it's very important. Okay, first of all, practice pronunciation. Why? Because maybe you know the language and you know vocabulary and you know the grammar, but sometimes the accent goes into the things that you want to say, and probably you're not being understood by some other people, but because you don't practice how it's supposed to be pronounced. But how can you overcome this? You can be fluently by watching YouTube videos and imitating the lessons. You hear a conversation, you pause the video, you practice the pronunciation, then you can record yourself of how you pronounce those things, and then you compare them. How did you pronounce them, and how was it supposed to be pronounced? And then you can improve the pronunciation skill. Or another thing that you can do to practice your pronunciation and help your tongue to pronounce correctly, read out loud. But everything you do, you have to do it constantly. You have to be persistent. Another, absorb information and ways to express yourself. This is very important because what you can do about this is like listen to podcasts about the things that you are interested, and you get your hearing to be better because you're listening authentic material. You can watch a movie and try to practice. Instead of using the subtitles in Spanish, you can put the subtitles in English, and that would also help you. You can read books or get into blogs about things of your interest. It is worth to spend some time searching to the right type of content that you're interested. Look for something that interests you and excites you, and that would make a difference. Another suggestion, write and practice. You could have like a notebook. It's not that you have to share everything you write, but if you share what you write, to someone who actually knows the language, they can support you and give you some advices of what to correct. Or if you don't want to share it because you are afraid or whatever, you can start writing your ideas at the beginning, and then as long as you learn something new, you can go back to the things that you wrote and make the corresponding changes that you need. The thing is that you keep practicing. As long as you write it, you actually expand your vocabulary. You learn how to write certain words, and that will definitely help you to improve your learning of the language. Another suggestion: join a discussion. And this is going to be better if you join discussions of what are the things that you are interested. You can join an active group and share your ideas and give your opinions. It is easier when the atmosphere is relaxed and your mistakes will not be noticed. And that could be even better if you do it with those who also have the same interest like you, or that they are also learning the same. Okay. And my last advice: keep an up-to-date list of what you want to learn. And this is more about, instead of just worrying about the things that you have to learn at school, try to search for the things that you really want to domain, okay? The differences between learning languages based on general purposes, we might get lost of learning specifically what we are interested or that we need. That is the importance of being autonomous and search for things based on the area of our interest. Like in your case, it might be searching for vocabulary or phrases or expressions related to the tourism industry. Get into situations that will help you act in the area that you want to master. Okay? Now, I would like to emphasize some of the advantages that I consider are present when you know a second language or more, when you are bilingual or multilingual. Okay, it's a way to communicate with others. If you know another language, it is going to be easier for you to understand and be understood by other people. And that's a huge advantage that you could have, not only for pleasure, but for work. Okay, then it will help your career, providing you with an additional asset. Because let's be honest, employers are more interested in hiring people who know English than for those who do not know the English, especially in your career, where you are going to be exposed to provide your services for people that might come from other parts of the world. They would definitely rather to be understood in their own language than trying to express in our own, you know? And domain and additional language allows you to be multitaskers. There are some researchers that proves that bilingual people do better in mental challenges and are more skilled at multitasking than those who only speak one language, simply because being exposed to practice the acquisition of another language is like mental gymnasium. It allows people to exercise their brain due to the fact that switching between the languages is like a stimulating activity. Okay. And finally, the importance of knowing another language in the professional field. And this is very important, not only on your career, but any other careers. But let's point it out. The importance is to get noticed, to get hired, okay? So knowing a language, even in your case that you are learning English and you are also learning French, that would give you an additional asset, okay? It increases job opportunities and the chances of getting hired. As we mentioned before, people who have in their resumes or curriculums the skill of knowing an additional language might be what gets employers interested in hiring you, because it has become a valuable asset since it is an additional qualification that could make you be noticed compared with the competition of people who only speak their mother tongue. Next, It increases networking skills and gets you to make new connections. Learning a foreign language will help you become more aware of other cultures, and that allows you to meet new people and get the connections that you need, probably all over the world and not only in your local area. In my case, for example, like 5 years ago, I applied for an international exchange, and it was applied for over 1,000 teachers, but they only picked 200 of the most prepared ones, and they sent us to take a course in the United States in the Arizona State University. There, I not only met people from United States who had different cultures than I did, but I also share connections with other Mexicans that were from other states, and they also share with me their culture, what they used to do, and the way they express. And we got the connection that even when we came back, we started like a WhatsApp group, and we're communicating with each other, sharing ideas, sharing information about other international how do you say, like exchanges, and that has been very enriching for me. Next, it allows you to experience new cultures, because person who can speak another language can easily share with other people in other parts of the world, and not only know their own culture but others as well, and even share your own culture. As I told you before, I not only went there and meet their culture, but I also share my experiences and the way I live in my state. Okay, and this is a very important thing when you know a language that you can share with other people. And finally, it's important because knowing another language helps you to build self-confidence and allows you to have an additional asset compared with monolingual people. Probably knowing another language will allow you to feel more empowered and be more convincing than those who do not have to, well, that do not know how to speak another language. And these are the things that you have to consider when you learn a new language, because all of those things you can use them in your field. Okay, for me that would be all. I am also going to share with you this PowerPoint presentation, and I will give you a list of suggestions of the web pages that you can get into to practice your English. For example, the first one is called Quizlet. This is like a web page that has an application for your cell phone, and it allows you to practice pronunciation, writing, and listening. And the good thing about this is that you not only look for materials that are already made, but you can make your own materials. And that's what I expect my students to have. Like they need to get interested in something and get their own sets to practice. And it doesn't only applies for English. You can also use this app for your French classes, because it allows you to choose the kind of language that they want to be pronounced. And the rest of the links are about web pages of exercises about the hotel industry. Okay, for me, that would be all. So thank you very much for your time.
Agradecemos a la licenciada Cristina Dolores Hernández Landazuri por su participación en este ciclo de conferencias y solicitamos que exprese unas palabras a la coordinadora académica de turismo, la maestra María Isabel Dávila Bundio.
Y como vieron, chicos, no hay que tener miedo a equivocarnos al hablar. La idea es practicar, practicar lo necesario, lo suficiente, porque esto abrirá de manera multiplicada las posibilidades de crecimiento laboral y más en nuestra área que es el turismo. Gracias, Cristi, por tu tiempo y por poder brindarles a los chicos esta reflexión sobre la importancia de los idiomas. Un gusto coincidir contigo a través de este medio. Muchas gracias.
Igualmente.
De esta manera damos cierre a esta conferencia, no sin antes agradecerles a todos por su participación, esperando que haya sido de su agrado. Muchísimas gracias.
Adiós.
Me imagino no hay preguntas entonces, ¿verdad?
No,
Ya se nos va a
maestra.
acabar el tiempo.
Ok, perdón.
Muchas gracias.
Igual les proporciono mi correo por si alguien quiere contactarme para hacerme alguna pregunta. Yo muy disponible.
Muchas gracias, Cristi. Cuídate
Gracias.
mucho. Saludos a tu mami.
Ok, igual. Hasta luego.